This guy, Flash Thompson, he probably deserved what happened. But just because you can beat him up doesn't give you the right to. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. And I guess I jumped the gun a little bit yesterday. I was kind of praising Marvel Comics for doing things a little bit different. Obviously, in June, we've got 4, maybe 5 events, depending on how you look at it. But in July, they announced that they were coming out with this Last Annihilation, and it's not an event. It's just a crossover between Guardians of the Galaxy and Sword. And there was a couple other, things that they were putting out, but they weren't events. We knew we weren't going to get through all of July without a Marvel Comics event. So in issue number 64 of Amazing Spider-Man, I believe it's 64, we see Doc Ock at the end in like a prologue. We haven't seen Doc Ock in Nick Spencer's Spider-Man at all, I believe. And he's like at an unmarked grave, and he's looking for something. He opens up like a casket. And there's nothing in it, and he's been duped somehow. And then we see a centipede, obviously Kindred, crawl into his head. He kind of goes onto the ground, and you can see that Kindred is kind of maybe controlling his mind or something. And at the bottom, it says Sinister War coming in July. And that's it. We're getting the Sinister War in Amazing Spider-Man and as an event as well. And this is going to, I guess, be the reintroduction of the Sinister Six led by Doc Ock. But that is not all. He's going to be facing off with the Savage Six, apparently led by Vulture. Not certain that this has all been really led up to in Amazing Spider-Man, but there are a few more issues to kind of set this all up. Obviously, that's what the prologue was for. So you are not getting an event-free July if you're a Marvel Comics fan. There's also some pretty big news in the way of Bryan Hitch, who for a long time has been a DC Comics exclusive artist, a very good artist. His most notable contribution, maybe probably to comics, is his work in the Ultimates, specifically his Captain America design. If you like Captain America in the MCU, that is Bryan Hitch's design from the Ultimates. So he is coming back to Marvel, and the rumor is he's got a big project that he's working on. Before we get into the details of Sinister War, Doc Ock is in a kind of a weird place. With Dan Slott's run, he, I don't know, was he redeeming the character? He kind of went evil. He took over Peter's body, but then he kind of felt like maybe he was an anti-hero, specifically in Superior Spider-Man, which a lot of people liked. So it was a different take on Doc Ock. Certainly hasn't been the villainous character that we all have known and loved for quite some time. So I wonder, are we going to be getting like this kind of in the middle gray Doc Ock, or is this total baddie Doc Ock that's being controlled by Kindred? I guess that'll all play out in Sinister War from Nick Spencer. Now let's get into the details of this. This will be kicking off I believe it's on July 1st. And this is what the announcement says. This July, an all-out war between 2 of Spider-Man's greatest villains and their sinister sextets erupts in Sinister War. Exploding out of Nick Spencer's pulse-pounding run on Amazing Spider-Man, this all-new series pits Dr. Octopus's Sinister Six against Vulture's Savage Six in a war that puts all of New York City in the crossfire. These deadly groups of foes are out for blood, Spider-Man's and each other's. With art by Mark Bagley, Sinister War will be the latest epic in Spencer's transformative work on Spider-Man mythos, packed with an even more surprising developments, including the grand return of Dr. Octopus. The Savage Six will be represented by Doc Ock, the Lizard, Hydro Man, Sandman, and Kraven the Hunter. I'm a little confused about that one. I thought in Hunted, Kraven died at the end. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Maybe I misremember, but I thought he was no longer with us. Maybe he's being, I don't know. There's a lot of resurrection going on in Marvel Comics these days. Maybe he's going to be resurrected by Kindred. Now, you say that's the Sinister Six, and there's only 5 members. That's the only 5 that we know of. Perhaps Kindred, being in the mind of Doc Ock, Doc Ock is the 6th member of the Sinister Six. Perhaps there is going to be another member that will be a big reveal or something like that. But I noticed, and I'm certain you noticed, that there's been only 5 members so far. Now, representing the Savage Six will be Vulture, Rhino, Tarantula, Scorpion, Cobra, and Stegron. And they're going to be basically fighting it out in the streets of New York City. Peter Parker is going to be stuck in the middle trying to save the city, and take down both sets of villains. So that should be interesting. There's also an excerpt from the solicitation that reads, two of the most deadly villain teams are fighting both Spidey and each other. But what is Kindred's role in all this? So obviously, Kindred, who I believe was introduced, I think it might have been in issue 1. If it wasn't in issue 1 of Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man, it was very early on. We waited, like 50 issues to really meet the character. We had that little last remains story that never ended, even with Postmortem, and he's kind of been in stasis. And we know that Norman Osborn would like Peter Parker to help him, rehabilitate, redeem Harry Osborn as Kindred. But Kingpin obviously has different plans. He's like holding Kindred in this, this cell made out of some type of dark power. If you are reading the Sinister War event series, which I believe is 4 issues, Mark Bagley is going to be in the art. So we've been wondering, where's Mark Bagley on Amazing Spider-Man? He apparently has been illustrating this event book. So that's why we've been getting a lot of villain artists. Still not certain where Patrick Gleason is. I thought that was the big reason that they brought him over to Marvel Comics, but we rarely see him on Amazing Spider-Man other than doing some pretty amazing covers. And he's not even doing covers for this one. So if you're interested in the Mark Bagley art, you will get that in the Sinister War event series itself. Obviously, Amazing Spider-Man will be tying into that as well. So Amazing Spider-Man 71 will be illustrated by Federico Vicente. That is the artist that illustrated Spider-Man 64. He's pretty good. He's not Mark Bagley, and he's not Patrick Gleason, but not many artists are. But the art in Amazing Spider-Man 64 was more than passable. It was pretty darn good. So that will be coming out on July 21st. Not certain how this event's going to play out. Is it going to be a weekly event series like Marvel Comics have been known to do recently, or is it going to be more like King in Black, where it was done monthly? Obviously, we got a lot of delays, but I don't know if that was all Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman on that one. And the other big news is that we have Bryan Hitch will be illustrating the cover for Sinister War #1. Bryan Hitch has done some amazing things over at Marvel Comics. Earlier, I mentioned his work on the Ultimates with Mark Miller, I believe, where he basically designed the cap that most people in the world probably know and love. It's certainly the best cap outfit that we got in the MCU. It's one of the iconic character designs. Bryan Hitch had a lot to do with that. He was a DC exclusive artist for a very long time up until recently. He did some great things. If you haven't read his Hawkman series with Robert Menditti writing, I would absolutely go out and get that one as soon as you can. The first 12 issues are all done by Bryan Hitch. It's fantastic. It's one of the best comic stories that you're going to get from Marvel or DC Comics coming out in the last 5 years. He also had that Warren Ellis Batman's Grave series. If you like Batman in more of a detective role, also illustrated by Bryan Hitch, who does certainly have a history of working with Warren Ellis in the past. Go check that out as well. So I wish he was doing the interiors, but he's just doing the covers on this one. I think he's a big get for Marvel. It sounds like he's got a big project, in the works. Bryan Hitch is not only an artist, but he also has done a lot of writing in the past. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it time for another Spider-Man event? Last Remains seemed kind of big. In June, we're getting Chameleon Conspiracy. So big that it's not even bi-weekly. It's coming out weekly. So we're getting 4 issues of Spider-Man in June for this Chameleon Conspiracy story. And one of them is a giant-sized Spider-Man. And the month before, we're getting another giant-sized Spider-Man. So it feels like Marvel is betting big that Spider-Man is where the hot action's at and is going to bring in the readers. Don't know that I completely agree with this. I came off pretty disappointed in the end of Last Remains, which I jumped the gun when I was naming my best comic stories of 2020. I put Last Remains up there before it was over. And Perch was like, don't count your chickens before they hatch, man. Do not discount that Marvel can absolutely drop the ball on this Last Remains story arc. Kind of feels like they did, at least in my book. Why even name the story? Just have a few issues with Kindred in it and then let it play out. But it feels like we're being strung along to issue 100 as far as the Kindred story and the resolution for that, which we'll be getting probably in 2022 sometime. So I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed with the way that they executed that, specifically Nick Spencer and I guess it would be, what's his name? Is it Mark Lowe? Is that the name of the Nick Lowe? Nick Lowe is the name of the editor that works on all the big Spider-Man books with Nick Spencer. I don't know. Is this exciting to you guys? Are you ready for another Spider-Man event? Haunted wasn't that long ago. Last Remains was basically an event. You got a bunch of extra issues, those .LRs, Chameleon Conspiracy, weekly Spider-Man series with the giant-sized Spider-Man, and now we're getting into Sinister War. Big things happening on Spider-Man. I feel like it just adds to the event fatigue. I don't. Marvel's going to Marvel. It's what they do. So I spoke too soon. I apologize. But Marvel could have done The Last Annihilation as an event, and they aren't. So I guess that's the good news. But if you're a Spider-Man fan and you want to see the Sinister Six and the Savage Six, two new versions of the teams, square off in New York City with Spider-Man in the middle, this is likely to be the event for you. I think Mark Bagley on art is going to be fantastic. And the Federico Vicente art that we've seen so far in Spider-Man is pretty darn good. Although I would obviously prefer to see Patrick Gleason on there, but I don't know what he's doing. I think he just might be a Marvel Comics cover artist, even though he's a Stormbreaker. He's supposed to be one of the up-and-coming comic artists in the industry. I was hoping he was going to be doing Captain America. All of that hope is gone, but that is your latest news from Marvel Comics. Big Spider-Man event coming in July. And later today, I will be reviewing Way of X from Simon Spurrier. And then after that, we're going to be trying to save She-Hulk with Joe Corral. That video is finally going to come out. I've got it finished. I think you're going to enjoy that. And I will talk to y'all later.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.